The last thing I want to talk about today is a wonderful argument called the perception of color that was submitted by Jose Alberto Mosquera del Orbe. And Jose, I hope I've pronounced your name correctly, or at least not too inaccurately. The argument goes like this. Premise 1. Joe sees as red what Sue sees as blue. Premise 2. Sue sees as red what Joe sees as blue. Premise 3. Joe labels red what he sees as red. Premise 4. Sue labels red what she sees as blue. Premise 5. Joe labels blue what he sees as blue. Premise 6. Sue labels blue what she sees as red. Premise 7. Both of them see the green color as green and label it green. Premise 8. Only Sue has this characteristic vision. Premise 9. The rest of the population sees the colors just as Joe does. Conclusion. So both of them coincide when they label a color, and Sue may not realize that her color vision differs from that of the rest of the population. Now, this argument has a very weakly stated conclusion in the version that I just described. It's that Sue may not realize that she sees colors differently than the rest of the population does. Now, to achieve that conclusion, you wouldn't even need all the premises that Jose put in that argument. It might be true that Sue is colorblind and never realizes that she sees colors differently than the rest of the population. And it's possible. It's unlikely, but it's possible. But Jose is trying to describe a situation where the difference between Sue's color vision and Joe's color vision is systematic, and it's not tracked in the labeling that they use. And Jose's point is that when the difference in color vision is systematic and not tracked by the labeling and the colors they use, not tracked by their color nomenclature, then Sue very well may not realize. It's not just a remote possibility that she may not realize, just like someone who's colorblind may never realize that they're colorblind because, let's say, they're never tested. It's that Sue very well may not realize, very likely may not realize that she sees colors differently from the rest of the population. Now, it's an intriguing argument, but I'll tell you why I'm not convinced. The argument is, in a certain respect, one-sided. While it describes a situation in which the normal ways, many of the normal ways, by means of which Sue might come to know that her vision differs from that of the rest of the population, are cut off from Sue. She doesn't label colors in a way that would betray the difference between her color vision and Joe's or that of the rest of the population. It doesn't consider the fact that Sue might, as a result of her deviant vision, have very different aesthetic tastes than Joe. So, for instance, while lots of people love Picasso's blue period, and thanks to you, Jose, I thought about a Spanish artist, while many people might love Picasso's blue period, Sue might find Picasso's blue period to be full of paintings that just don't make any sense. Because after all, the blues that Picasso's blue period paintings are full of don't look blue to Sue. They look some other way to Sue. And so Sue might not understand those paintings at all. She might find them repellent. So there are lots of other sources of information that Sue could use to find out that her color vision might very well differ from the color vision of other people. And this is what I sometimes suspect when I find that people don't like, let's suppose, wonderful Manchego cheese. If someone doesn't like Manchego cheese, the only conclusion I can draw from that is that what Manchego cheese tastes like to them must be very different from what it tastes like to me. Maybe their taste buds and my taste buds work very differently. And so, the way Manchego cheese tastes to them must be more like, let's say, what foie gras tastes like to me. And that's why they don't like it. So, while the premises of Jose's argument might all be true, and they might lead Sue not to be able to tell that her color vision differs from the color vision of Joe or of other people in the population. It's also true that Sue might still very well be able to tell that her color vision differs from the color vision of Joe and of other people by considering differences in her aesthetic preferences.